Two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
It's a scoop session and a reckless speculation Thursday to all who celebrate with our guy Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department every Tuesday and Thursday here on Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd. Doogs, I just pulled up some NFL Coach of the Year odds. And, Dan Campbell, depending on the website you look at, but Dan Campbell is still the odds-on favorite across most sports books. Number 2 right now, firmly on 365scores.com. I think this is via FanDuel. Kevin O'Connell with a healthy lead over Mike Tomlin, 3, and then Sean Payton, Dan Quinn, and some others. So let's do a little KOC appreciation here. Coach of the Year, he's definitely firmly in the mix.
Well, to me, he's the winner. Now, I get it. If the voters want to right or wrong. Now, hey, Kevin Stefanski earned Coach of the Year last year, but maybe Dan Campbell should have won it last year. So if they want to right that wrong, I get it. But the preseason expectations for Detroit were incredibly high, right? So I get it. Detroit may ultimately finish with 15 or even 16 wins. So, how do you not give your vote to Dan Campbell, especially navigating all the injuries they've had? But I just look at preseason expectations, the Vegas over-under for the Vikings, 6.5. The Vikings could finish with perhaps even 15 wins. Yes, there is a scenario. They finished the regular season on a 10-game winning streak, although I think even the game at Seattle is tricky, but it's possible they finish 15-2, head into the playoffs on a 10-game winning streak, yet are the 5 seed because the Lions win out until week 18. The Lions lose to the Vikings. Then it comes down to the tiebreaker, common opponent. The Lions beat the Rams. The Vikings lost to the Rams. So the Lions would have tiebreaker over the Vikings. That is one scenario. But if the Vikings finish with even 13 or 14 wins, when the Vegas over-under preseason was 6.5, how do you not reward Kevin O'Connell? And hey, I also get it. If you want to look at the odds, Josh Allen is minus 400 to win MVP. He is an overwhelming favorite to win MVP. So Sam Darnold is not winning MVP, but he's at least in the conversation. Kevin Judd has a lot to do with that. To me, Kevin O'Connell right now in this moment, Coach of the Year.
You think about what O'Connell has done, too, just from a 10,000-foot view, right? With this team, with what they've been through, in July, a player died. That can take a toll to keep the team tight. And I was out there on Wednesday, and it is just incredible when you look around this late in the season, how structured things have remained, how there is so little controversy ever now around this team, a team that's been known for controversy. And a lot of teams in this league are. But Kevin O'Connell has done such a fantastic job, not just with Darnold, not just with the players, but just with what I would call the whole program of keeping it together. He deserves credit. There's no question now, and we've discussed this before too, Dukes, he's going to get an extension. I do have a question about this, though. What's the price point now? For Kevin O'Connell. So if they said, okay, Kevin, let's see, you made playoffs year 1, you didn't year 2, we like you, but, we're gonna hold off and wait and see. What is the price point? Not that coaching contracts leak a lot because there's no union to leak them, but nonetheless, Kevin O'Connell's representation is going to go in, and they are going to absolutely make a killing, and they should make a killing.
By the way, so Andy Reid is reportedly the highest paid head coach at $20 million.
Yeah, nobody's higher than that. So
Sean Payton,
Andy Reid,
18,
highest paid head coach.
Tomlin 16, Jim Harbaugh 16.
Yep.
Sean McVay, 15, Kyle Shanahan, 14, then John Harbaugh, 12. Mike McDonald with the Seahawks makes $9 million a year. I start there and I say, all right, well, all due respect to such a long way to Michael McDonald there in Seattle, I think KOC needs to be a little higher than that.
Give me a little bit more yacht rock, Phil.
Yeah.
I'm in a
Have you
yacht
guys
rock
seen the
mood.
Have you guys seen the Yacht Rock
No,
documentary
I
on
need
Max?
to.
Dude,
No, I
it
do
is-
want to see that. It's
It's
good.
Yes,
awesome.
I have to.
Yeah, it's a great idea for documentary.
And Michael McDonald heavily featured. Christopher Cross heavily
Shocking.
featured.
Christopher
By the way,
Cross.
the producers
We're
called
still going strong.
the
Yeah.
producers called Donald Fagen from
Yes.
Steely Dan, because Steely Dan has some yacht rock tentacles, and Michael McDonald's done some background on some of their songs, but Donald Fagen is like adamant that we do not label us yacht rock, and the producers called him and said, "Hey Donald, it's so and so from the yacht rock documentary. Do you have some time to chat?" And he goes, "What's the documentary?" The yacht rock documentary. And he goes, "Why don't you go F yourself?" Click.
And that's it,
how
right?
ends. Yeah, that's how it
Which
ends.
which is the same as the Brat Pack one when they called Judd.
Yeah,
And Judd's the one guy's like, screw you, I don't want to talk about
I'm out.
the Brat Pack. But I think O'Connell's price point, I think the start of the conversation, Doogs, is 10. It starts at 10, and I think it probably goes up from 10, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's not below 10. Kevin's agent is Trace Armstrong, one of the real power brokers in that realm.
Yep.
Trace tried to get something going earlier this year. It didn't get off the ground. Well, guess what? The price has now gone up. So whatever that price was 3, 4, 5 months ago, tried to initiate some dialogue. There was some dialogue to some extent. I don't know how far it got off the ground, but Trace tried to get something going. It never got going. But yes, minimum 10. I think it's actually north of that. At this point, it's what, 11, 12? Let's see how January plays out. If they're one and done, maybe it's a different conversation. If they end up going to Tampa or Atlanta, or you name the destination that first weekend of the playoffs and get upset, I would think they'd be a slight favorites. If they get upset in the first round, maybe it's a slightly different conversation we have, what the price point is. But yeah, to me, minimum start north of 10. In terms of navigating the locker room, I'll give you an example. Brian Asamoah, who makes the nice play, right? 28-21. I think the Vikings were going to win, but momentum-shifting play last Sunday, causing the fumble. Vikings recover. C.J. Ham. Vikings then score. Go up 35-21. Because it's hard to believe, early fourth quarter on Sunday, it was 21-21. The Vikings end up winning 42-21. Brian Asamoah makes the big play. Brian Asamoah, deep down, if you want to call this reckless speculation on this Thursday, fine. But Brian, deep down, was hopeful of a move at the trade deadline. That he has seen guys trump him, right? I mean, they just bring in this linebacker Davis who's earning snaps. Yeah. Brian can't get out there, right? But guess what? He is still playing his ass off. You mean to tell me KOC doesn't have something to do with that, maintaining a healthy relationship with Asamoah, helping him navigate early November when there was hope that he would be elsewhere? That's just one of many examples I can cite. I'm working on a story, in fact, it's done, that will air on Monday night, 6:30. So Monday night, it's a Monday night doubleheader. So Vikings-Bears is only on ABC. So you don't have the simulcast on ESPN. So here in the Twin Cities, we are doing a pregame show, 6:30 to 7, leading into kickoff. My story is just how much guys love KOC's post-game victorious locker room speeches. And I get it. We don't get in the locker room when they lose. We're not at the team hotel the night before for those really, really loud and passionate speeches. Josh Metellus told me the best speeches are actually at the team hotel the night before games. But we do get the YouTube clips, the social media clips of KOC immediately after a game and throwing out the game balls, throwing out all sorts of accolades. But Byron Murphy Jr., Cam Akers, Dalton Reisner, to a man. You know, I spoke with a bunch of guys going back a couple weeks. These guys freaking love KOC. They just do. I'm telling you, I think I have enough of a relationship with enough guys where, okay, camera off, still maintain a conversation. Like maybe something would have been told to me somewhere along the way. Judd, I'm telling you, I've not heard one negative thing all year. In fact, going back more than a year about KOC.
I think players love him. And look, like, I think that what we see, he has more of an edge than he shows us. So there's definitely, and he can get mean when he has to. But I think for the most part, what we see is what they get. Like I don't think there's a different personality there. And the fact is too, and this is I think it haunts him, but it also works, is Kevin is great with players because no matter who that guy is, like to your point, Dukes, Asamoah, perfect example. Well, yeah, he can't play. I mean, Flores will not put him on the field. But guess what? Kevin O'Connell didn't get a chance himself. Like he's got the same story. So like he can empathize and say, if Flores is the bad cop, right? Kevin O'Connell's the good cop. I understand what you're going through, man, but you have an opportunity here on special teams, and that's how you're going to make your mark. And it's genuine. It's not like, well, dude, you were a superstar, QB. So yeah, he plays this, and I say this in a complimentary way. He plays this perfectly because I think he can appeal to so many different like star players, yes, failures, yes, but he can get the most that he can out of guys that perceive themselves to have failed.
I mean, I really do go back to nearly 3 years ago, just thinking about the trajectory. If Ryan Poles ends up as Vikings general manager, when thinking about Monday night, Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears, if Ryan Poles end up as the GM here, Kevin O'Connell unlikely to be the head coach. Or if the Vikings decided in that moment after that first interview with Nathaniel Hackett to be more aggressive, even though the plan heading into the interviews was, hey, even if we're blown away, I mean, this came up, even if we're blown away, first interview, the plan is we will execute the plan. We want to talk to multiple candidates. We are not going to immediately fall in love with just one person. But what if in that moment things had changed? I just think about how fortunate they were about 34 months ago or so, nearly 3 years ago, to land on Kevin O'Connell as this team's head coach. And I'll continue to say it. I think he is going to be this team's head coach for a really long time. Even if they lose in the first round of the playoffs in January, he is going to be this team's head coach for the foreseeable future.
So to that point, it's crazy. We know there's turnover in the NFL, and every year there's like 6 or 8 or 9 head coach openings, and but time goes by, but right now, there's only 3 coaches that have been with their team for more than 7 years. Andy Reid, hired by the Chiefs in 2013, John Harbaugh, hired by the Ravens in 2008, and Mike Tomlin, hired by the Steelers in 2007. Sean McDermott, Sean McVay, and Kyle Shanahan are tied as the 4th longest tenured head coaches with their teams in the NFL. They were hired in 2017. It's 2024. So they're still 3 years away from a decade with those teams. So this is year 3 for KOC. Do you think he'll still be the Vikings coach in 5 years from now?
I do. Yeah,
Me
and I
too.
get it. So much can change. But yes, Sean McVay. So it's year 7, you said, for McVay with the Rams?
Yeah, 7 or 8,
so he'll
right?
approach year 8, which would be 5 years from now for Kevin O'Connell. I think it'll be a similar path. Not just McVay. You laid out a few names there, but I think about McVay with the KOC connection, with the Rams connection. Yes, I do. I think his family likes it here. Just everything that entails being the Vikings head coach, living here in the Twin Cities. Yes. Having that rock-solid relationship with ownership. Yes. If you're asking me in 2029 if Kevin O'Connell is the Vikings head coach, right now I tell you yes.
So one thing that intrigues me about this entire conversation is this too. We've always talked about coaching trees, right? And coaching trees were ordinarily like Bill Walsh's system. Holmgren takes that system, but now I think that coaching trees, and this is specifically the Shanahan tree, McVay now, is also personality and stability. Like, I think Bill Belichick went to North Carolina in part because he probably got wind that, I don't know, man. I don't know if you're going to get a job, which is incredibly embarrassing if you've won multiple Super Bowls. But if you think about it, like I've always talked about in coaching shelf lives, right? Like shelf life guys. Like you got a great act, but it's going to work for 3 years, and then it's not going to be as effective. But if you think about this, right? Kevin O'Connell, Sean McVay, Shanahan, I think to a certain degree, I don't know that they have an act that's a shelf life act. Like they've got a genuineness to them. And certainly things could go really bad and they could be fired. But I don't think that there's this, okay, you're a little bit bristly, and so you're going to last for 4 years and then it's going to go south. I think that we're talking about a tree that actually has stability, which is great, because now it's like a guy can come here. I mean, Bud is a guy, right? Bud lasted forever in part because he just was Bud. He didn't have this, okay, Bud, now it's going bad. So I could see O'Connell and, being here for a very long time.
Yeah,
because
why not?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, there's enough roster turnover, right? A good chunk of the roster turns over
but guys like
on a
him,
yearly
like
basis, or at least enough. So guys are coming in. They haven't even heard his voice. But yeah, the genuineness, the way he connects with each and every guy, even guys in the practice squad. So at this point, number one on the roster, whoever that is, Justin Jefferson, I suppose, through, Bobby McCain on the practice squad, or even below Bobby McCain. These guys they love him. So yes, I don't foresee anything, changing in that regard. There's nothing to worry about, off the field or away from the facility, right? Kevin's a great family man, does things right. So yes, 2029, it makes all the sense in the world. The Vikings are not trading Kevin O'Connell. That idea has been bandied about. So, I don't see that happening. So, yes, I absolutely see him here. Maybe the better question is 5 years from now, is Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah the Vikings general manager? One of, if not the best free agent class in Vikings history in March. So, to me, Kwesi is also going to get a contract extension. But do you feel confident about him being here 5 years from now?
Yeah. I actually have some spur-of-the-moment reckless speculation, Brian Flores related here in just a second. So just hang tight.
Reckless speculation.
But first, Judd, this is not speculation. Finch Home Solutions is great and will be here for a long time helping people, right?
Absolutely right. And you are looking at these lights right now. You're looking live at these lights and saying, Sports Dad, what is that?
Looking live.
You're looking live at these lights and you're saying, these look like Christmas lights, but they look so nice. And I'm going to tell you that they definitely are, because our friends at Finch Home Solutions partnering with Gemstone Exterior Lighting for the holiday season. But here's the best part. They're permanent, so they don't come down. In fact, guess what? They can be used for purposes of, right there, security. They can also change. So let's just say you're a Vikings fan, and now it is before a big game, perhaps a big game in February, shall we say, and you want to light your house up in purple, you can do exactly that. Finch Home Solutions is going to make it so that you don't have to get up on a ladder, you don't have to get up and take down the lights. The lights will be there, and the lights will help you year-round. 612-357-2604. FinchHomeSolutions.com. FinchHomeSolutions.com for all your electrical needs. Cody and his team are the best in town.
Also, Woodhouse Spas is here as a great gift idea for, maybe it's just for your own self-care, quite frankly, but think about your spouse, your mom, anyone on your list. If you haven't come up with the perfect gift idea, why don't you stop into one of the 3 Woodhouse Spas locations, Maple Grove, Woodbury, Rosedale Center, or go to woodhousespas.com. Get a gift card for a loved one with over 70 spa services they can choose from, including massages, body treatments, specialty packages, facials, you name it. Stop in Maple Grove, Woodbury, Rosedale Center, or woodhousespas.com. Someone hit us up a couple days ago. They got a $500 gift card for their wife and said, here it is, honey, take it, go have at it, have a day. Woodhousespas.com gift cards. Also, one more thing. So all week long into next week at scorenorth.com keyword auction, thousands of dollars of items up for bids that you can get your hands on, like the ultimate golf package at Deer Run Golf Course, valued at just under $7,000, available for auction right now. A Canadian fishing package at Fletcher Lake Lodge, available. All sorts of, how about this? Stays at the Intercontinental Hotel, Minneapolis Airport. That's a really cool hotel includes one-night self-parking, all sorts of cool things at scorenorth.com, keyword auction. Okay. So Brian Flores was on Dan McNeil, Chicago sports radio guy for the last 2 decades. He reported that the Bears have a short list of head coaching candidates. It includes Brian Flores as one of the 4 names, Mike Vrabel. So that, and Ryan Poles and Brian Flores overlap by a year at Boston College, so there's definitely a connection there. Let me throw another team out at you that could be perfect for Brian Flores. And I hope he stays with the Vikings, but I also want him to get a second chance as a head coach. There's a Cincinnati Bengals team right now that doesn't really need an offensive-minded head coach anymore. Like, they have Joe Burrow. Get him a good coordinator, pay Jamar Chase, make sure the offensive line is fine. Like, Joe Burrow is an adult now, and he's one of the 3 best quarterbacks in the NFL. The Bengals defense under Zach Taylor, 29th, 21st, they were 6th a couple years ago, but 17th, 22nd, 25th, they've been atrocious defensively. Can you imagine Brian Flores going in there, fixing that Bengals defense, and just having Joe Burrow do his Joe Burrow thing over here? I think there's a good chance the Bengals fire Zach Taylor. I think that strikes me as a great potential fit in a smaller market. Brian Flores, your thoughts?
Still needs the personnel. I mean, he would fix the defense enough, but it might take a year or 2. I hear you, Joe Burrow. I mean, if Brian Flores is the head coach and it's a different play caller, Joe Burrow is going to succeed no matter who the play caller is in that offense. Now, are they keeping both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase? So I am curious about what the offense does look like truly over the next couple of years, but it may not matter that Joe Burrow is that good. I mean, it is historic what has happened to the Bengals this year, losing 4 games when they've scored 30 or more points. Mm-hmm. That is unheard of. I don't know, though, if you're firing Zach Taylor. Like, to me, Zach Taylor got fired. The Bears or somebody should jump instantly on him. Would this make more sense, Judd? That, okay, Zach Taylor stays. Robert Saleh, maybe Eberflus is just better as a defensive coordinator, not as a head coach. Maybe there's some other good defensive mind that you can get. So bring in the right DC, but Taylor stays as head coach.
Well, and the problem, though, is this. Are they going to have, in Cincinnati, any cap space? Like if you keep the receivers like that, that's the thing is the Vikings, again, to go back to what the Vikings did, right? They perfected the concoction. The quarterback's not super expensive. You can pay Jefferson, but you can then also bring in all of these defensive pieces. So, like, if I am Flores and Cincinnati's like, hey, you are our guy, I'm going to need answers on, okay, that's awesome, but what can we spend? Because, like, I don't think Brian Flores, once he does get a job, I don't know that he has a strike 3. So I've got to have at least a little bit certainty, like if, in his case, a defensive guy, right? Can I put my concoction together? Because, like, this year's been glorious. He all of a sudden gets Grenard and Van Ginkel, and you start to sprinkle in some really effective free agent signings. But
I mean, you're attaching your career to Joe Burrow. Like, I'd rather do that than go somewhere with Dak Prescott as a 30-year-old or Caleb Williams. You don't know if he's going to pan out or not. I'll take my chances with Joe Burrow for my.
I agree. Yeah,
for my second chance.
He's one of those guys that whatever the cap number is, it doesn't matter, right? Josh Allen's in that boat. I suppose not a great year, but Patrick Mahomes is in that boat, right? That you would attach yourself to Joe Burrow no matter what the cap looks like for the rest of the team. Okay, so the Brown family has owned the Bengals for how long? I mean, I just know it's a really long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for a long, yeah.
Are they really hiring Brian Flores?
I don't think so, no.
I'm not even sure the Bears are hiring Brian Flores.
Well,
so it was Mike Vrabel. Who were the other names? Dan McNeil, very plugged in Chicago.
Ben Johnson.
Other 2 names?
Ben Johnson.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Does Ben even take that job?
Right. Well, and
Ben Johnson makes a ton of sense. Why are the Bears hiring Brian Flores?
I mean, they're looking for a leader. You know, they've had these sort of wishy-washy leaders, Matt Nagy and Matt Eberflus.
I get it.
So, but you ultimately would want someone to develop.
Doesn't Vrabel get the hire before Flores?
But if
the 4 names you listed, are 3 of them Caucasian? So is there a
I don't
Rooney Rule
know.
aspect to this?
Well,
I mean, I hope Brian
unfortunately-
doesn't fall into that trap,
unfortunately-
but I have to wonder aloud, right? I would think you'd hire Vrabel over Flores if you're Chicago. If you need that true leader. To me, hiring the best offensive mind makes the most sense. But if you need to go with the former head coach, to me, it's Vrabel over Flores.
I'll be absolutely floored. And it's the Bears, so they can screw up a one-car funeral. But if the Bears go defense with Caleb, I think you're absolutely crazy. And
Yes.
you're going defense then, which flies in the face of how this league works. Now there was the report. I think it was on the Thursday night game on Prime last week between the Packers and Lions that Ben Johnson has basically said, I am not going to take an interview unless I plan on taking that job. Like he's like, I'm not going to do this whole thing again of I'll fly to Washington, then I'll fly here, and then I'll fly there. So the Bears need to prove, I think, to a certain degree that they have their act together. And unfortunately with the Bears, I'm not sure that they do.
But they still have cap space, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
They've got a lot
still
going for them.
well-positioned cap-wise. I guess it comes down to, if you're Ben Johnson, what's your true opinion of Caleb Williams? How high is the ceiling for Caleb Williams? If you are a Caleb Williams fan, to me, Ben Johnson goes to Chicago.
Yeah, my problem is who runs that team? Is it Ryan Poles? Kevin Warren? Like if it's Poles, I might
we know
go there.
Kevin is heavily involved. I mean,
Yeah, I know,
no
but I mean,
denying
I might
that.
be out then.
Yeah.
He's a business guy who thinks
I
that
know.
he thinks he knows football, and those guys are the most dangerous guys.
Yep. Doogie, we do have to bounce here, but 1 minute of rapid fire scoops. Go. Fire away.
St. Thomas Athletics. In January, the NCAA is expected to hold a vote. So you make the leap up to Division I. Typically, you need to wait 5 years to play in the postseason. So, for example, this season, Johnny Tower has a good team, the men's basketball program. Now, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, also really good. But it's not out of the realm of possibilities that St. Thomas wins the Summit League tournament. I would make them the 3rd favorite. Well, they can't accept the automatic invitation to March Madness, right? Because they need to wait a full 5 years. Well, the NCAA will hold a vote in January. There is momentum to move that 5 up to like 4, maybe even 3. But for 4, it would help St. Thomas. So, like this time next year, the Tommies open up the new arena on campus. By the way, they just received a $10 million donation.
Wow.
St. Thomas keeps rolling in these
go.
huge
Roll Toms.
figures. The
Roll
Iverson family
Toms.
just donated $10 million to aid in the construction of the arena that will open on campus like next fallish, early winter, October, November, somewhere in that ballpark. About 11-ish months from now, new arena opening up on the campus of the University of St. Thomas. So if they move this thing up, if this vote passes in January, for example, St. Thomas men's basketball next season then would be postseason eligible. So not eligible now, now, not eligible next season, but if the vote passes in January, they could be eligible for postseason play next season. So that is very good news. On the Twins front, spoke with an agent who has a big stake in the game when it comes to the Twins. He met with the Twins in Dallas. He was told, as of now, the Twins have zero money to spend. Not a shock. The Twins are still trying to create some payroll flexibility. I do think they will eventually. Paddock, Vasquez, Castro even maybe. Certainly Paddock, the first name to keep an eye on. But as of now, nothing close on the Twins signing a major league free agent to, like a Carlos Santana type contract, 1 year, $5.5 million. The Twins don't even have that money in this moment, but they are going to free up some money at some point.
Yeah. There he is, folks. Darren Doogie Wolfson on this Reckless Speculation Thursday. We'll do it again next week. See you Tuesday, Doogie. Enjoy your weekend.
Okay, sounds good, boys. I'll see you soon.
All right. It's Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd.